Welcome folks to Dame Celeste's Lore Corner. Today we'll be covering Triangle Strategies, the Saltiron War, all three parts. The Saltiron War, one of the fiercest wars raged in the realm of Norzelia, can be roughly divided into three periods. Before its onslaught, the Grand Duchy of Aesfrost secretly contacted the Kingdom of Glenbrook and asked for an alliance to break Hyzan's monopoly over salt. Glenbrook agreed. The exchange for their logistical support and permission to march through the kingdom. In exchange, Glenbrook asked Aesfrost for joint governance of the source. On the day the war began, the duchy's troops proceeded through Glenbrook and declared war on Hyzan as they rushed the Holy State's capital. Hyzan barely had time to close its gates, and the goddess's shield protected them from the onslaught. But their forces were unprepared, leaving them no choice but to take the defensive against Aesfrost's iron might. In hopes of turning their position around, the Hierophants sought the aid of a clan that made their home in the northeastern reaches of modern-day Glenbrook. They called themselves House Wolfort. Simone, lord of their house, heard the Hierophant's plea and made way for the Holy State with a small but elite force of warriors. Their bold attack broke through the duchy's encirclement and forced them to retreat to the border. This effectively destroyed Aesfrost's hope for an early resolution. The exploits of Simone Wolfort changed history. From that point forth, the Wolforts, which had been no more than a small clan in the area, became key in altering the course of the war. The fighting came to a standstill when Aesfrost and Glenbrook on one side, and Hyzan and Wolfort on the other. The war affected not only those on the battlefield, but all across Norzelia. Before long, the salt reserves the duchy had amassed in anticipation of the war began to dwindle, and they realized they would not last much longer. In Hyzan, the Hierophant succumbed to illness. The Saintly Seven quarreled over who would succeed the Holy One, and the city descended into chaos. It is rumored that during the turmoil, the Roselle revolted and fled the source. Nothing was made official, but the rumor was likely true given the subsequent state of the city and the army's struggles. Despite the growing fatigue of both parties, all nations involved were reluctant to retreat out of fear of public backlash, so the war dragged on. Battles small and large were waged, and the fight at the renowned Citadel of the Sands among them. Details of the damage are still unknown to this day. The people and soldiers of all nations suffered greatly over the 30 years that came to be known as the Saltiron War. The Saltiron War claimed many lives and left entire cities in ruin. After seeing the destruction, King Regna of Glenbrook contacted Lord Simone of Wolfort in secret. He wished to find a path towards peace. Acutely aware of the pointlessness of the war, Simone agreed to meet, and the two began working together to bring an end to bloodshed. Glenbrook and Wolfort declared that they would no longer support Aesfrost and Hyzan. They demanded an immediate end to the war and for all nations to discuss the reconstruction of Norzelia in a peace conference. Knowing that Glenbrook and Wolfort were prepared to fight if they refused, the destitute nations of Aesfrost and Hyzan agreed, thus the Saltiron War was brought to an end. At the conference, all parties agreed to the nations' borders would remain intact and made a pact of non-aggression. Furthermore, each nation was forbidden from arbitrarily limiting the distribution of salt and iron. And the Norzelia Consortium was established to neutrally control the trade of those materials. House Wolfort also became an influential house within the Kingdom of Glenbrook. The war gave way to a new framework within Norzelia, one that included the Consortium and Glenbrook's three high houses, but discussion over their merits and shortcomings must wait for another time.